Welcome back, everyone. We're diving deep into the life of Queen Elizabeth II today.
A life of duty and change, for sure.
Exactly. 70 years as queen.
Really hard to wrap your head around that length of time.
Think about all the things the world went through during those 7 decades.
Wars, technological advancements, social upheaval.
And she was there through it all, a symbol of stability.
It's almost hard to imagine Britain without her.
Right. And what's so interesting is how she managed to stay relevant throughout all those changes.
How did she do that?
Well, for one thing, she wasn't afraid to embrace new ways of connecting with the public.
Like sending the first royal email.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of a funny thing to think about now.
The Queen hitting send on an email.
But it was a huge step at the time.
It showed she was willing to move with the times, to connect with people in new ways.
And that was key to her enduring popularity.
Absolutely. It wasn't just about being queen, it was about being relatable.
Being seen as a human being, not just a figurehead.
And she was brilliant at balancing that line between tradition and modernity.
You see it in her decision to televise her coronation in 1953.
A really bold move for the time.
Millions of people watched it on TV.
It brought the monarchy into people's living rooms.
Made it feel more accessible, more personal.
And I'm sure there were some who weren't happy about it.
Oh, I bet. People who felt like it was too much of a departure from tradition.
But she understood that the monarchy had to adapt to survive.
Had to keep up with the times.
It's interesting, though, was there ever a time when she pushed back against change or hesitated?
You know, there were moments when she proceeded with caution.
Makes sense.
Like, she was initially hesitant about allowing camels into Buckingham Palace for that documentary, Royal Family.
Oh, right, back in 1969.
She later admitted it was a mistake.
Interesting that even the Queen could have regrets.
Well, it shows she was human, right?
Absolutely.
Learning and adapting as she went.
But overall, it seems like she understood the power of media and how to use it effectively.
She knew how to connect with people.
And that was one of her greatest strengths.
Yeah, that ability to connect, to come across as genuine and caring.
It's what made her so beloved.
Think about her annual Christmas broadcasts.
They became a tradition during her reign.
Millions tuned in every year.
It was a chance for her to speak directly to the people.
Share her thoughts, offer words of encouragement.
And it wasn't just about the words themselves. It was about her presence.
Her voice, her demeanor.
It conveyed a sense of warmth and humanity.
Especially during times of uncertainty or crisis.
Like her address to the nation during the Gulf War in 1991.
A really powerful moment.
She projected strength and resilience.
Offered comfort and reassurance to a nation that was understandably anxious.
It's interesting that you bring up the Gulf War because that period also saw a lot of turmoil within the royal family itself.
The 1990s, her so-called annus horribilis.
Right, a year of scandals and setbacks.
The breakdown of Charles and Diana's marriage.
The fire at Windsor Castle.
A lot of negative press and public scrutiny.
It really put the monarchy to the test.
So how did she handle all of that?
With remarkable resilience, I'd say.
She never wavered in her commitment to duty.
She addressed the controversies head-on, made changes where needed.
Worked hard to rebuild public trust.
It would have been easy to retreat, to shy away from the spotlight.
But she didn't.
Instead, she doubled down on her commitment to public service.
And that dedication, combined with her genuine sense of caring for her people, shone through.
It was a defining moment in her reign.
It revealed her strength, her ability to navigate even the most challenging situations.
And it probably shaped her approach to leadership in the latter part of her reign.
It makes you wonder, what did she learn from those experiences?
How did they influence her perspective?
And how did she reconcile the public image of the monarchy with the very real personal struggles she was facing?
Right, because behind the crown, she was also a wife, a mother, a grandmother.
A human being dealing with complex emotions and family dynamics.
It's a side of her we often don't get to see.
But it's crucial to understanding her longevity, her ability to reign for 70 years.
Exactly, because it wasn't just about duty and public service.
It was also about finding balance
between the demands of her role and the needs of her personal life.
And I'm really curious to delve deeper into that balance in the next part of our deep dive.
To explore how she navigated those different spheres of her life.
And what made her tick beyond the crown.
Sounds fascinating. I'm ready to keep exploring.
Me too. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back with more on the extraordinary life of Queen Elizabeth II.
One thing that really fascinates me about her reign,
What's that?
her role as head of the Commonwealth,
Ah, yeah, 56 nations.
a global organization.
Not an easy thing to manage.
No, not at all, especially with all the different perspectives and histories involved.
Because how does she approach that leadership role?
Well, she saw the Commonwealth as a powerful force for good in the world.
Really believed in its potential.
Absolutely. She championed things like peace, democracy, and sustainable development.
Okay, but were all the member states on board with that vision?
There were definitely some tensions and disagreements along the way.
Makes sense given the history of British colonialism.
Right. Some members saw the Commonwealth as an outdated relic of the empire.
While others embraced it as a platform for cooperation and mutual support.
Exactly. It was a complex dynamic to navigate.
So how did she manage those complexities?
Diplomacy, mostly.
Diplomacy.
Yeah. And a genuine respect for the diverse perspectives within the Commonwealth.
So she wasn't about imposing her will or anything like that?
No, she was much more about building relationships, fostering understanding.
I can see that it was a lot of listening and finding common ground.
And travel, and she traveled extensively to visit member states.
Oh yeah, all those royal tours.
Meeting with leaders, attending summits, immersing herself in the local cultures.
It sounds exhausting.
It probably was, but she saw it as an essential part of her role.
I guess that makes sense if you're going to lead such a diverse group of nations.
You need to show up, to be present, to make that effort to connect.
Did she ever use her platform to advocate for specific causes within the Commonwealth?
Oh, absolutely. She was a vocal advocate for things like environmental conservation.
Ah, that was close to her heart.
She also championed education and healthcare initiatives.
Especially those aimed at empowering women and girls.
Right. It's interesting how her personal values aligned with her work in the Commonwealth.
It seems like she was very intentional about using her platform to make a positive impact.
She was, and, her voice carried weight.
Oh, for sure. When the Queen spoke, people listened.
Especially on issues like environmental conservation or poverty and inequality.
It's interesting, though. Was it always smooth sailing? Did she ever face any pushback or resistance?
Well, the Commonwealth had its fair share of internal conflicts and political upheavals.
I can imagine.
Disagreements over human rights, trade, governance, all sorts of things.
So how did she handle those situations?
Well, her role was primarily that of a facilitator, a symbol of unity.
She encouraged dialogue and cooperation.
But she generally avoided taking sides in political disputes.
A delicate balance to strike.
Yeah, but...
Because she had to maintain her neutrality.
Exactly. She couldn't be seen as favoring one member state over another.
So she worked behind the scenes, using her influence to promote understanding and reconciliation.
That was her style. Quiet diplomacy.
It's interesting how that approach contrasts with some other world leaders.
Right. She wasn't about making grand pronouncements or trying to dominate the conversation.
It was much more subtle, more nuanced.
It makes you wonder, how effective was that approach in the long run?
That's a good question. I mean, it definitely worked for her in terms of maintaining unity within the Commonwealth.
But it also raises questions about the limits of that kind of leadership.
Right. When is it appropriate to speak out more forcefully?
When is it necessary to take a stand?
It's a tricky balance for sure, and I think it's something that future leaders of the Commonwealth will have to grapple with.
Yeah, figuring out how to navigate those complex dynamics.
While still upholding the values of the organization.
I'm curious, though, shifting gears a bit.
What's on your mind?
What was she like as a person? Behind the scenes.
Ah, the woman behind the crown.
Exactly. What were her passions, her interests? What made her tick?
Well, she was famously an animal lover.
Especially horses and corgis.
She owned over 30 corgis during her reign. Did you know that?
I did. It's adorable.
Yeah.
It makes her seem so relatable.
Right. And she was also known for her dry wit and her mischievous sense of humor.
People who knew her best described her as warm, approachable, and genuinely interested in others.
That challenges the image we often have of her as this very serious and stoic figure.
It does. And I think it's important to remember that even monarchs are human beings.
With their own quirks and personalities.
And that human side of her was just as important as her public persona.
Especially when it came to her family.
Ah, yes. Her role as a wife, mother, grandmother.
Those roles were incredibly important to her.
Absolutely. She cherished her family time.
Even with all the demands of her public role, she made sure to carve out time for them.
It makes you wonder how she managed to balance it all.
Right. The public and the private, the personal and the professional.
She was a master of compartmentalization, that's for sure.
Yeah, she had a strict separation between her roles.
Like when she was at home with her family, she was simply Lilibet, not the queen.
Lilibet, I love that. It's so endearing.
It shows that she had a life outside of the crown.
A place where she could just be herself.
And that probably played a big role in her longevity.
Being able to step away from the pressures of public life.
To recharge, to connect with loved ones.
It's a valuable lesson for all of us, I think.
No matter how busy our lives are, it's important to have that space where we can just be ourselves.
Okay, so we've talked about her leadership, her personal life, her ability to balance it all.
What a life.
It's truly remarkable, but now that she's gone...
It's a new era for the monarchy.
Exactly. So as we move into the final part of our deep dive,
I'm curious to explore what her legacy means for the future.
what challenges and opportunities lie ahead for the British monarchy?
And how will they navigate this new world without her? It's amazing to think about all the changes she witnessed.
During her reign,
Yeah, I mean, the world transformed so much.
from the post-war era to the digital age.
And through it all, she remained this constant, a symbol of tradition and stability.
But she wasn't stuck in the past.
No, not at all.
She was actually quite forward-thinking.
Like with that whole email thing.
Right, embracing new technology.
She understood that the monarchy had to evolve to stay relevant.
Had to keep up with the time.
Exactly. She could just ignore the social and cultural shifts happening around her.
But how did she balance that with the need to preserve tradition?
I mean, the monarchy is all about tradition.
It's a tricky balance to strike.
Yeah. Were there any times when she kind of pushed back against change? Or hesitated?
You know, there were definitely some moments of tension.
Like what?
Well, her decision to pay taxes in 1992.
Oh, right. That caused a bit of a stir.
Some people saw it as a break from tradition,
A concession to public pressure.
but she recognized that the monarchy had to be seen as accountable.
Had to move with the times.
It's like she was always trying to find that sweet spot.
Between preserving the past and embracing the future.
Yeah, it's a delicate dance for sure.
And it's something that future monarchs will have to continue to grapple with.
Absolutely. But, you know, going back to her ability to balance
Hence
things.
compartmentalization skills.
Right, being able to separate her public role from her private life.
I think that was a big part of what allowed her to reign for so long.
To withstand the pressure, the scrutiny.
It's like she had this protective shield.
Yeah, a way to step away from it all and just be a little bit.
Not the queen, just a wife, a mother, a grandmother.
And those roles were clearly very important to her.
Oh, absolutely. She cherished her family
It gave her a sense of normalcy, of grounding.
in a life that was anything but normal.
And I think that balance, that ability to find joy and meaning outside of her royal duties, contributed to her longevity.
I agree. It's like she had this inner strength, this resilience that came from having a strong foundation in her personal life.
Makes sense. And, you know, even in her later years,
When most people would be slowing down,
he was still going strong.
carrying out her duties with incredible energy and dedication.
Never seemed to tire of it.
Always engaged, always present.
It's really quite remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, to be that dedicated to public service for that long,
It's a testament to her character, to her sense of duty,
she truly believed in her role as queen.
as a symbol of stability and unity.
And that belief shone through in everything she did.
It's hard to imagine what the monarchy will be like without her.
It's the end of an era, for sure.
What do you think are the biggest challenges facing the monarchy now?
I think staying relevant is a big one,
Especially in today's world.
where traditional institutions are often questioned.
People are looking for something different.
More modern, more relatable.
So how does the monarchy adapt to that?
It's a tough question. I think it requires a delicate balance between preserving tradition and embracing change.
Yeah, like how do you honor the past while also looking to the future?
It's not going to be easy.
But I think there's a real opportunity here for the monarchy to redefine itself,
To become a force for good in the 21st century,
championing causes that resonate with younger generations.
like environmental sustainability, social justice.
Issues that really matter to people.
It's going to require some bold moves,
Some out-of-the-box thinking.
but I think it's possible
Yeah, I mean, Queen Elizabeth showed us that change is possible
that the monarchy can evolve and adapt.
while still staying true to its core values.
Values of duty, service, dedication.
And that's a powerful legacy.
One that I hope will continue to guide and inspire future generations.
It's been such a fascinating journey exploring her life and legacy.
I've really enjoyed this deep dive.
Me too. And I hope our listeners have as well.
Learned something new about this incredible woman.
And maybe even been inspired by her example
to find that balance in our own lives,
Between duty and personal fulfillment.
between tradition and progress.
Between who we are and who we aspire to be.
Well said.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Queen Elizabeth II.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep asking those big questions.